All right, welcome on in everyone to another episode of First CSP, the channel dedicated to bringing you the first council shoulder patch issued from each council in Scouting America, both past and present. Today we're going to take a look at Suwannee River Area 664 out of Florida. The council was originally formed in 1924 as a name change from Tallahassee 91. Got a couple of things to take a look at today. We are going to start off with the T1 with its red border, blue background, yellow fleur-de-lis, and red name. It is a non-standard shape, and they list this one specifically as 63 millimeters from top to bottom and 141 millimeters from left to right. That's important for us because it is really the size that is the main distinction between the T1 and the TA2, both of which are relatively small production sets for CSPs. So there's not as many of them. There's fewer of the T1, there's more of the TA2, but both are more on the scarce side, I guess you could say. The T1 is the 141 from left to right in millimeters, and the TA2 is 135. So I've got a ruler here. Let's see if I can set that 0 over there. You can see this one comes out at that 140. I find these measure closer to 140. I don't know if that's, shrinkage over time or whatever, but they're certainly not the 135. So it's easy to tell the T1s. Another thing that I've seen in looking for T1s versus TA2s is this very tight weave gauze backing on the T1s, and on the T2s, it's more the loose gauze backing that we see on other CSPs. More commonly on other CSPs. Something more like this is what I have seen on the TA2. We do not happen to own a TA2, so I wanted to take some time to talk about the differences there so that if you're worried about identification. I would also note that the way the border is stitched on the T1s, I see more of them where the finishing kind of almost makes it look like there's a point down here. Whereas on the TA2s, the images that I've seen online, sometimes that seems just a little more smooth or rounded and not kind of like a point, but I don't think that that's 100% an easy distinction between the two. So that's kind of the main differences that I've noted in looking at T1s and then images of TA2s because we don't have one. Another thing to note, I have seen posted online at least one example where they say they have a TA2 that is a reproduction, and on the back it does say REPO. However, it looks more like that was drawn with Sharpie than the stamp style that you saw on, say, reproductions produced by National or whatnot, where they have the repo that was definitely like a stamp. This looked more like it was drawn on. I don't know if there's a TA2 known reproduction. There's certainly not one in any of the guides that's ever been listed. I'm probably not going to include this video tag with our known reproductions series just because if a reproduction exists, it's of the TA2, which is not the first issue, and so our series is really focused on identification of the authentic first CSPs versus their reproductions. But I thought I would also mention it because as I was looking up information to record this, I did see that that did exist. They did keep with the same imagery on subsequent patches after the T1 and TA2. Here are a couple of examples of the T3. You can see then they moved to adding Florida, Georgia as the service area did service scouts in both states along the border of Florida and Georgia. You can see there is some variation here in the T3s as far as more golden towards more yellow on the banners, slightly different shaping, certainly a thinner, more pointed fleur-de-lis here on this one. Top one here is a gauze cloth back, the bottom one is a plastic back, but both of these would be examples of T3s. I have seen also listings where people have T3s confused with the TA2. The TA2 is the same shape, just smaller, as the T1, so keep that in mind. Well, that gives you a rundown here of the first issues for Suwannee River. Actually, I'm going to take off these T3s. Let's finish back with that first issue, T1 here on the board. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of First CSP. We are back every single day with brand new episodes. Should we later acquire a TA2 in our collection, which is always possible, we would certainly do an update on something like a Sunday special, so be tuned for that. Should we add one of those and be able to give you a side-by-side? But for now, hopefully the descriptions have at least helped with identification. With that, I want to thank you all for stopping in. Again, if you're enjoying the content, feel free to like, subscribe, and share this with others. We do appreciate that greatly. And we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode.